Live from Washington, I'm Aisha Tanzim and you're watching Access Point. Hello and welcome. The kidnapping of over 300 schoolgirls by Nigerian militant group Boko Haram shocked the world. Many in Pakistan joined the international community in condemning the act and have called for action. But should this incident be so shocking to Pakistanis? Doesn't Pakistan have its own Boko Harams, more than one? And isn't the ideology more widespread than people accept? Joining me in today's discussion is Raza Rumi. He's a journalist, an analyst, and himself a victim of this ideology. And via Skype from Lahore, we are joined by Mr. Abdul Ghaffar Aziz, the Director of Foreign Affairs in Jamaat-e-Islami. Gentlemen, welcome to Access Point.
Thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Raza. Am I being over the top when I say that the Boko Haram ideology already exists in Pakistan?
Well, yes. I mean, I don't think you're being over the top at all. I think shades of this thought and this particular view of the world definitely exists in Pakistan. You know, Boko Haram literally in the local Nigerian language means those who are against the Western education. And similarly, a lot of extremist organizations in Pakistan and the ideology, they reject Western education, they reject the West, they consider it as an enemy of the Muslims and the Muslim world. And therefore, they're up in arms. But the problem in Pakistan and with Boko Haram is that they are making their own people a victim of that particular ideology and not per se the Western targets, quote unquote.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Aziz. Do you think I'm being over the top? Do you think the Boko Haram ideology exists in Pakistan?
I think that not only in Pakistan, in any part of this world, some groups can improve or they can promote their ideas. But the basic question is that use of power to implement and to impose their own ideas on the others, it is not acceptable by any means or any views of Islamic parties or non-Islamic parties. We in Pakistan, like Jamaat-e-Islami, we are a political and we are a religious party as well. And there are a lot of mainstream Islamic movements throughout the world, and all of them, they are refusing such type of ideology or such type of tactics.
Okay, Mr. Aziz, I'm really glad you said that, because I'm going to provoke you a little bit and put you in the limelight. I would suggest that this ideology exists not only amongst the extremist groups in Pakistan, like the TTPs and the banned organizations, but it is permeating through the rest of society, and that political religious parties like yours are not doing enough to be the buffer that you need to be. And my example would be organizations or people who think that it's okay to use violence like it was used in the case of Rashid Rahman. He was a human rights lawyer who was defending somebody accused of blasphemy. He was threatened and he was killed. And organizations like yours are not raising their voice against incidents like this.
No, I was trying to say that we or any other Islamic movement throughout the world, they are not favoring or supporting or even have any sympathy with this ideology or with this mentality. I'm here with a strong statement issued by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi. He is the president of Islamic International Union of Muslim Scholars. He strongly condemned this action, and we also supporting this statement. But I'm here to quote a statement and a report by International Crisis Group, and they were giving their ideas or their reports about Nigeria. They said that, yeah, we have to address the insecurity in Nigeria, but we have to address the injustices as well. Otherwise, such groups will continue, and they will have some grounds for themselves and to convince some people. We as Jamaat-e-Islami also, as you mentioned that Raza was also targeted and others, our acts ex-Amir and our leader, ex-leader, Qazi Hussain Ahmad, he was targeted. But still we are in idea and weave that how to control this type of ideology, how to control this mentality. If injustices are there, like today in Egypt, 3 people were killed, and today there are 23,000 people they are in prison. An Egyptian court, they are issuing death sentence.
And you're right, many human rights organizations are against what's happening in Egypt. Let me come back to you. Raza, I want to come to you. It's very easy to compare Boko Haram to TTP and banned organizations, but I don't want to take that easy route. I want to find out whether the ideology of my way or you get killed has permeated so much in the Pakistani society that it's disrupting the fabric. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Aisha, absolutely correct. I mean, I think it is no longer the issue of some, fringe groups. But what has happened in the last 30 years, especially since the 1970s, that even, in the so-called educated classes, you have increased support for violence or some kind of justification for violence. Now, the case of Jamaat-e-Islami is different because it's a constitutional party. It accepts Pakistan's constitution. It contests the elections, each time they're held. It is in the parliament. They are ruling. They're a co-partner in one of the provinces of Pakistan. But the problem is that, these groups like Boko Haram or the TTP or others in other parts of the world, they reject constitution and they reject democracy as Western tools. And the problem in Pakistan is that is gradually seeping in there. Now, I just heard that, about the injustices that Boko Haram is fighting. And TTP also says that it is fighting injustices, and the Taliban in Afghanistan also say they're fighting justices. But to resist injustice, do you really have to target civilians?
Exactly, and do you really have to use violence of this sort? Let me come back to you, Mr. Abdulaziz. And I agree with Raza that Jamaat-e-Islami in Pakistan is different. It's a constitutional and a political religious party, and that's why it was a very deliberate choice that I invited you to this show. Because you are the buffer between the extremist groups and Pakistan's liberal and secular parties, and you are in the middle. And so some people argue that you bear more responsibility because a lot of violence in Pakistan is being done in the name of religion, and Jamaat-e-Islami claims to be the torchbearer of religion. I was reading through your literature, I was reading through some of the rallies, and your former emirs and your current emirs have said that we want to promote the right image of Islam, and yet you're not standing up for minorities in your own country. You're not standing up for Christians when their homes are burned down. You're not standing up for Ahmadis when they live in fear. Yes, Egypt, discrimination and lots of bad things are happening in Egypt, but what about Pakistan?
Yes, we are in Pakistan as well. I think just to correct the record that when some of our Christian brothers were targeted by some extremist groups, and I'm not sure who were these groups, and it is not easy to find the real culprit of such attacks. But we as a Jamaat, we stood up, and it was our duty morally and also politically and also legally. We went to their villages, we built up their houses, we offered them our houses to be our hosts in that area. We are not with any injustice, not only in Pakistan. Let me complete, Aisha. While we are discussing Boko Haram in Nigeria, why we are not ready to address all injustices throughout the world? In Bangladesh, for example.
And we discussed that. We discussed that in multiple shows. We discuss injustices wherever this happens. It just so happens that Boko Haram is the most recent incident of shocking violence against women. And I know your party doesn't condone it. You've tweeted and you've condemned it.
But Aisha, the situation is that all these atrocities in Egypt or in Syria, for example, or in Bangladesh or in Central Africa or in Arakan or in Gaza, for example, or in Kashmir or in occupied Kashmir or in Afghanistan. Not, we are not ready, especially our brothers and friends in Western world, in America, in media. They are not ready. We are facing this challenge. Let's say that Boko Haram and such groups, they are a threat for our security and for the peace. How to deal with these groups? We can control these groups or this mentality to promote democracy and true democracy in our world and this in our countries.
So
But
let's
we
start
are not
with
so
your...
strong. If you are asking me that why Jamaat Islami is not doing our duty, so why the international community is not coming up with all these condemnations?
Okay, so you want to get into this game of blaming each other since the international community is not doing its job, therefore we won't do our job in our own country? Is that what you're saying?
Doing our job.
Okay.
No, we are doing our job and will continue. It is not our politics. It's our duty by our faith and our ideology.
Okay, I will come back to that. Raza, you were a journalist when you were in Pakistan and had to leave under very difficult circumstances. Tell me, is journalism against certain issues, particularly when they involve faith, more dangerous than journalism on politics and other issues?
Yes, I think increasingly it is becoming very difficult that, because the non-state actors, particularly these extremist groups, have acquired so much power in the recent years that, it is very difficult to be reporting on them. And more often than not, even the state officials like the police and the prosecution and the politicians, they are often afraid of taking them on because their power has grown manifold. But I would like to add to what was being said earlier by the colleagues from Jamaat-e-Islami. The injustices and oppression and all other reasons which cause anxiety and cause anger are there, and they need to be condemned, whether it's the Central African Republic or what is happening in Kashmir or Palestine, etc. But the real problem here is that the method of resistance chosen needs unequivocal, clear condemnation. You cannot shoot a young child, Malala, because she wants to study in a school. You cannot abduct 200 plus girls in Nigeria to resist against international or global oppression against Muslims. This is insanity. And it is insane and unacceptable by all standards, Islamic, humanitarian, no religion in the world or no faith, no ideology permits that. And the problem that in Pakistan, the clear-cut condemnation does not come. For long acts of terror, acts of violence like these have been, sidelined or semi-condoned by saying, oh, look,
it's happening everywhere.
Yeah,
okay. I want you, Mr. Aziz, to answer this allegation, and I'll add to it because I talked to a lot of people, and one allegation against Pakistan's religious parties, mainstream ones like yours and like JUIF, is yes, it's very easy to say we're against terrorism, we're against violence, we want democracy. And you do that. You condemn it in very generic terms. But when it comes to specifics, you do not categorically do it. Your former emir called Osama bin Laden a martyr. Osama bin Laden was the hero of Boko Haram and TTP and all these groups that are doing this kind of violence. They were following him. Your party did not come out and say, we do not agree with our emir. So instances like that are what I mean by Pakistan's religious parties are not taking responsibility and being the buffer that they need to be.
I share that a lot of Islamic scholars have been martyred by such groups or unknown groups sometimes. And for instance, in Egypt, nowadays, there are new groups are emerging and nobody knows about their backgrounds, who are supporting them, why they are there. Now, in these days, while Muslim Brotherhood is fighting for their rights of democracy, and they are in all of their history, they are peaceful. Even from prison, their leader is
So let's,
issuing their statement.
I
Just a
get
moment.
it.
It is one issue, Aisha. It's a one issue. We cannot participate just for one corner and neglect other
No,
corner.
but Muslim
Muslim
Brotherhood denied violence, and they are
Yes.
not using violence. You can't compare
Yes.
Muslim Brotherhood to TTP and Osama bin Laden, which your party called
No,
a
no, no,
martyr.
no. I was not
Muslim
saying
Brotherhood
that.
doesn't
I was
use
saying-
violence. Muslim
Yes,
Brotherhood
yes,
doesn't use violence.
Yes, Aisha, I was referring to this point that Muslim Brotherhood or any other mainstream Islamic movement, although they are oppressed by these military regimes or other dictators, even in this case, they are not going to any type of violence. Such like these movements, they
That
should
is-
be given.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Muslim Brotherhood doesn't
Yes,
use
Aisha,
violence, so
we
therefore
are
we condemn.
okay.
So a lot of human rights organizations around the world have condemned what's happened to Muslim Brotherhood. Even the U.S. State Department and the White House have issued statements and condemnation. But this is what I'm talking about. I'm asking you for a very specific person, bin Laden, which your Amir declared a martyr. And he uses violence. He believes in blowing up innocent civilians. He believes in blowing up women's schools. He believes in all the things that we've seen in the Boko Haram ideology. And yet you guys were standing behind him.
No, I from very beginning, I condemned, and I don't think that it was not so strong. We are clear, and this clarity is always in our mind. And even our ex-Amir, while he was commenting on this issue, he was saying that we have to address the problem and to address the grassroots problem. If we are there, like brothers in Bangladesh, for example, just few days back, 7 of our members, they were hijacked by ruling party members, and then they were found in a river as dead bodies. Why Voice of America was not ready to discuss this issue there? Because
We did.
we have all of us, we have
We
just
did.
our choose.
We have. Let me go to the other side. Raza, does Mr. Aziz have a point that when it comes to violence from the other side, the liberals of the world do not speak up as strongly as they should?
I think that's not very, that's not the whole truth. The liberals or whoever, the non-Islam, the moderate or non-Islamic regular parties. I mean, look at who was opposed to drone strikes in Pakistan. There's a national consensus. Everybody has opposed, the collateral damage that is caused by such ventures. The whole of Pakistan is behind the Kashmir cause. The problem here is that the political discourse based on religion, has the objective. I mean, it's a power game. The TTP has now time and again said, Mr. Jaz is saying that they have that these groups are angered because of injustice. But the TTP has time and again said that they want to actually impose Sharia and bring their own system in Pakistan and, decimate Pakistani state. This is the thing with Al-Qaeda. This is the issue with Boko Haram, with other groups all across the globe, that, this is about power. Islamism.
Okay, Raza, let me try to provoke you a little bit and dig deeper with you. As a member of what's considered the Pakistani liberal class, do you think the Pakistani religious parties are doing what they should in terms of standing against this ideology as strongly as they should?
No, I think, look, I personally feel that the two key religious parties, Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamiyat-e-Ulama-e-Islam, who are in the parliament, who are part of the constitutional process, the fact that they have aligned themselves to mainstream Pakistan's structure is a welcome sign. But when it comes to, an outright rejection, an outright stance on use of violence against civilians, the problem occurs. So, for example, when the leader of TTP died in a drone strike some time back, the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Jamiyat-e-Ulama Islam, I mean, they were almost declaring the band outfits leader as a martyr, and there was a
Not
whole.
almost, they actually did. They actually did.
Yeah,
Sayyid Munawwar Hassan did, and he also said he'd live as a hero in the hearts of Muslim youth. So.
yes, and then they denied and all of that. But and the Pakistan military had to issue a statement. It was a historic moment because 5,000 plus Pakistani soldiers have died at the hands of these groups. 5 generals have been martyred, and so they had to come up with a statement saying, "Don't do this." And so you see, so
Okay.
that's the problem.
That's the problem. Okay, so Mr. Abdulaziz, I understand what you're saying, that there is injustice in the world and that's why some of these groups stand up. But let me again once more come to specifics. We're talking about the mainstream parties of Pakistan, Jamiyat-ul-Ulama Islam, Jamaat-e-Islami. A little while back, JUIF was against the appointment of an attorney general in their province because he was Ahmadi. That's politics of intolerance. That's not happening because America is doing something in Iraq or Muslim Brotherhood is being oppressed in Egypt. That is happening in Pakistan, where a mainstream religious party is using politics of hate and intolerance against a minority.
No, actually, it is not an issue of statement or any comment from one or other leader of Islamic parties, or even it's not issue of one region and it's not we have to ignore the others. No, it is how to, from very beginning, I agree with Raza, I agree with you that it is not the way to force your ideology, to impose your ideology, or use of force to impose your ideology. No, it is not the way, and we are condemning strictly. We are not with this way. But how to resolve this problem, how to face this challenge? If we are issuing statements, and if you want us that we have a verified and direct and specific statement against specific group or personality, no, it is not the issue of how to resolve.
Mr. Aziz, you're a politician. You're a politician. Let me just ask you one more question. I'll give you full time to respond. Let me just add to it. You're a politician. You know that in politics, words matter, perceptions matter, who you stand with matter, gestures matter. For example, if a mainstream political party is against the appointment of an Ahmadi because he's an Ahmadi, if all over Pakistan Khatm-e-Nubuwwat conferences have vitriolic language, and I've heard it as a journalist myself, vitriolic, hateful language against a minority, then that's politics of intolerance. And if you don't use words to stop that, and your leaders are in those conferences, then by your action, you're condoning that.
No, actually, we believe that all citizens of Pakistan are equal, and all citizens in whole world are equal for their rights and for their duties. Even Ahmadis, being a Pakistani, they have all the right to have any seat or any position, and they are there. Maybe their influence is more than any other majority, but they are just sometimes, some of them, they are using such statements, and yes, there are some groups, other anti-groups as well, but principally it is, if you ask me that, what do you mean by an Islamic State in Pakistan, we means that implementation and true implementation of the Constitution of Pakistan. If we are implementing our constitution,
but by actions, your leaders,
Ahmadis and other minorities and all minorities, they have all.
You're saying that, but I'm saying your leaders go to those conferences where that language is used. So by your actions, you're not saying.
No, even with our actions, we are with all support. But if blasphemy is there, of course, it is not as well acceptable, and it will increase the
lot
of
innocent until proven guilty in a court of law? Who knows whether blasphemy has occurred, or somebody has just accused another person because they want his land or they want to take out a personal grudge? I mean, blasphemy, accusation of blasphemy does not equal blasphemy.
No, actually, we are not with any killing out of the courts. Court has to decide who is guilty and who is innocent. It is not a duty or single any individual. Yes, we are there, but how to control this situation? If some groups or some person, he is there with all these blasphemies and some caricatures from your own countries and film from United States, it provokes not only a group, but whole Muslims throughout the world. So we have both of us, if we are two parties, so both of us have to do our duty. And I think the duty of international community is bigger than any single party.
Okay, well, you're again going into generics and international community, and we can't solve the problem of the whole world right now. Let's come back to Pakistan. Raza, let me ask you, do you think the Pakistan's liberals or Pakistan's silent majority, as is often quoted in the newspapers, are they doing their job? Because sometimes it seems like they're way too silent.
Yes, you know, Aisha, they are way too silent, number one, well put. And secondly, you know, as we right at the start of the program, you made a very insightful remark that, you know, it is permeating into the mainstream society. And this is the issue. You saw the murder of Rashid Rehman. You saw the murder of Salman Taseer. You saw the murder of Shahbaz Bhatti. On a daily basis, you know, communities like the Ahmadiyyas and, you know, Shia Muslims, they are targeted. You know, they are killed or they are harassed or they are threatened. And the issue is nobody does that. You know, the mainstream political parties and their leadership is so scared and so hooked onto their short-term interests that they don't want to change the narrative. And this narrative has now completely become the major narrative. So the silent majority, while, you know, most Pakistanis are peaceful people, I mean, you know that, I know that, they abhor violence, they abhor all these daily killings. But the problem is that, you know, once you brainwash young people that, that Pakistan is some sort of an ideological vanguard for a faith-based politics, then they find it very difficult to reject and condemn these issues. So there's a constant tension going on in the mind. You know, on the one hand, the extremist groups also use the name of Islam. On the other hand, you know that, you know, you're an Islamic country and you can't. So, you know, there is this whole confusion going on. But I think what is now happening is that because of the free media and because of the, you know, debates like the one we are having, we have a more opening up and more questioning going on. But surely the so-called silent majority needs to do much, much more. Otherwise, we are just standing on an abyss where violence is becoming a way of life, a daily reality of Pakistan, and that has to be avoided.
In Pakistan. Mr. Aziz, do you think it's time for Pakistan's right-wing parties and left-wing parties to join hands and come up with a narrative that alleviates this confusion in the mind of Pakistanis about where they stand? They can differ on their politics, but should there be certain things that everybody needs to stand for together and categorically?
Yes, we have our elected parliament, and we have to promote this culture throughout the world, in Pakistan and other than Pakistan. If Bangladeshi people have been butchered by a government which is imposed over them by support of international
You can't force Bangladesh to do anything. But let's talk about Pakistan, where you can do something. Does there need to be...
It's one world now. Now we are living in a village. We are in this world, this age of IT and this new technology. We cannot ignore all these atrocities and these injustices and all these killings in any part of the world. Yes, I am with you.
But you need to start from home.
Together. I am joining hands. I have to join hands with you, with Raza, and all of our Pakistani brothers and sisters, and we are very open-minded heart for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have to interrupt. I have the last 30 seconds, so please allow me to thank both our guests, Raza Rumi, journalist and analyst, and Mr. Abdul Ghaffar Aziz, Director of Foreign Affairs with Jamaat-e-Islami. And thank you for watching. I look for your questions and comments on Facebook and Twitter. Goodbye.